Alright, today we're going to be talking about the 8th grade Chapter 3 first half final. It's called Equations in Two Variables. Alright, so number 1, it says, what is the slope between two quantities in the table? Circle the correct answer. So slope is always going to be y over x. So from 10 to 20, we're going to add 10 again, and add 10 all the way across this bottom row, which happens to be my y value, which is the number of pages read. So I'm going to substitute that plus 10 in right away. Along the top here, I'm adding 15 each time, and that happens to be my change in x. So I'm going to have 15 in the denominator. Now, what I need to do is actually simplify this. There is a common factor of 5 between them. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So the slope is 2/3, which happens to be letter C. Number 2, find the slope of the line on the grid. So there are 2 points that are given here. So when I find the slope, I make a triangle. So this length here is 2, and because I went down, it's a minus 2. And then I travel along the grid line here again until I get to my endpoint, and that is 4. And because I move to the right, it's a positive 4. So my slope is my rise over my run. And this needs to be simplified by dividing both of them by 2. So I get -1/2. Number 3, find the slope of the line that passes through those two ordered pairs. So the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to make this my first ordered pair and this my second. So the y value from the second ordered pair, this is the second ordered pair, here's the y value, so this is going to be -1 minus the y value from the first order pair, which is 2. X value from the second ordered pair is 4. X value from the first ordered pair is 8. So -1 minus 2 is -3. 4 minus 8 is -4. And simplify this, both of them are negative, so the overall slope is a positive 3/4. Next page, number 4. It says Connie is renting a car on her vacation. Rent-a-car charges $40 plus 50 cents per mile. The total cost for renting a vehicle Y for X number of miles can be represented by the equation Y equals 0.5x plus 40. First question, what does the slope of the line represent? This represents the cost per mile driven. Right here it says it, per mile driven. Letter B, the y-intercept represents probably a deposit, but it's an initial charge. And then letter C, how much would Connie pay if she drove the car 210 miles on her vacation? Well, we have to use this equation where x represents the number of miles, so this 210 gets substituted in for x. So now I have y equals 0.5 times 2 is 10 plus 40. 0.5 times 210 is 105. Add them together, I get $145. Number 5, store A is offering 4 bottles of nail polish for $15. The cost for nail polish at store A or store B is shown in the table. Assume the cost for the nail polish varies directly with the number of bottles. At which store does nail polish cost more? So for A, it's $15 for 4 bottles. And that's going to represent $7.50 for 2 bottles, or $3.75 per bottle. at store A. At store B, it's $7 for 2 bottles, which is $3.50 per bottle. So A costs more than B, which would be letter A. Number 6, whose earnings are direct variation? Mistakes that we saw here was simply finding the slope. Direct variation is not slope. Direct variation refers to if it's proportional. So we had to do the 125 over 3, which happens to be 41.6 repeating. We now have 200 over 6, which would be 33.3 repeating. Those two numbers aren't the same, so Jake cannot have the direct variation. So let's double check on Susan's. 100 divided by 3 is 33.3 repeating. 200 divided by 6 is also 33.3 repeating. And 300 divided by 9 is also 33.3 repeating. So those ratios are all the same. So Susan has the direct variation. Because the ratio of earnings to weeks is constant at $33.33 per week. Jake may still be earning the same amount per week, because here to here is 75 for every 3 weeks, so it'll be 25 per week as far as the slope goes, but it's not proportional. Because if we were to continue this, here would be 0, and we'd be at 50. And if this was a direct variation, both numbers should represent, or both numbers should be 0 here. So, number 7 and number 8 on the next page, writing equations from a graph. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So the slope, my 2 points are here and here. This arrow is 2, and because I go down, it's a negative 2. As I move to the right, this arrow is 1, and because it's to the right, it's 1. So my slope is negative 2 over 1, which is negative 2. So right now, I have y equals negative 2x. The last part, this plus b, that's where the line crosses the y-axis, and that happens to be right here. And that's down at 1, 2, 3, so this would be a negative 2x minus 3. Number 8, same exact process. Y equals mx plus b. Need to find the slope. Here are the two ordered pairs that we're going to be looking at. So I have to go up and to the right. So here this is up 1, 2, 3. So this is 3. So the rise is 3. Here we go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So the run is 4. So the slope is 3/4. So far, that's my equation. Right here is my y-intercept. I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is y equals 3/4 x minus 5. Numbers 9 and 10, graph the line from the equation. Having a table works really well. I'm just going to pick a couple numbers for my input here. If I substitute 0 in for x, 4 times 0 is 0 minus 1, so y would be negative 1. So right now, that's the ordered pair that I have. Next input of 1. 4 times 1 is 1, or sorry, 4 times 1 is 4, minus 1 is 3. So over 1, up 3. Next one, input of 2, so 4 times 2 is 8, minus 1 is 7. So I have 2, 7. So my line would look like that. Number 10, I'm going to go through the same process. The only difference here is instead of having inputs of 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to do 2, 4, and 6 because the slope is 1/2. So I want to utilize that, so I don't want any half marks between here. So if I use 0 as my input, negative 1/2 times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. So right now, that's the ordered pair that I have. If I have an input of 2, negative 1/2 times 2 is negative 1, plus 4 is 3. So I'm over 2, up 3. 4, negative 1/2 times 4 is negative 2, plus 4 is a positive 2. And then negative 1/2 times 6 is negative 3, plus 4 is 1. So there's that. And then my line would look like in that direction. All right, number 11. Define variables and write a direct vary equation to represent the situation of the framing gallery can frame 4 pictures per hour. First of all, I'm going to say that Y is the number of pictures and X is hours. So now I know that when I write my equation, what each variable represents. And if it's 4 pictures per hour, my equation is Y equals 4X. Letter B, find how many pictures they can expect to frame in 6.5 hour shift. So I'm still going to use the same exact equation, but X from letter A was the number of hours. So I'm going to substitute 6.5 in for X. If I do this multiplication, I would get 26. So 26 pictures in 6.5 hours. Number 12, write an equation in slope-intercept form. Remember, that's y equals mx plus b. So slope, I'm increasing by 6, not 4, 6 each time. So m is going to be 6 over. Negative 2 to 0 is a plus 2, and I'm increasing by 2 each time. So my slope is going to be 6 over 2, which happens to be 3. So far my equation is y equals 3x. The intercept is when x equals 0. That's right here. X equals 0, y equals 1. So it's a plus 1. Number 13. What's the equation of the line, or in slope-intercept form, that goes through those two ordered pairs? So I need to find that out. So m, when I have two ordered pairs, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to say that this is ordered pair number 1 and this is number 2. So the y value from number 2 is negative 3. The y value from the first ordered pair is negative 7. X from the second is 0. X from the first is negative 2. So 3 minus a negative 7 is going to be the same as negative 3 plus 7, which happens to be 4. 0 minus a negative 2 is the same as 0 plus 2, which happens to be 2. So my slope is a positive 2. So looking at this, I can get rid of C and D right away because those have a negative slope. Next thing I need to do is I need to figure out the intercept. Remember, the intercept is where x equals 0. That would be this ordered pair right here. So the y value is negative 3, so the answer should be 2x minus 3. Number 14, state the slope and y-intercept for the graph with the equation y equals 8x minus 12. This here is the slope, so slope is 8. Intercept is what's added after it, so that'll be negative 12, and we like to write that as an ordered pair. Next question, number 15. The table shows the items and their individual prices that Randy brought to donate for a charity. So he bought hats and coats, $25 per hat, $75 per coat. So if he spent $375, we need to write an equation in standard form. Remember, standard form is AX plus BY equals C. So X is the number of hats bought at 25 apiece, so that's 25X. Y would be the coats, and that's 75 per coat, for a total of $375. Letter B, finding the X and Y intercepts. So if we find the X intercept, we have to set Y equal to 0. So this is really 25 plus 25X plus 75 times 0 equals 375, which is 25X equals 375. Divide both sides by 25, and you get X equals 15. So the intercept is 15, 0. Which on my ordered or coordinate plane here would be right there. My y-intercept, same exact process, but instead of y equaling 0, x equals 0. So now I have 75y equaling 375. Divide both sides by 75, I get y equals 5. So the intercept will be 0, 5. And that happens to be 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. If I connect those two dots, it's going to look like this. Don't extend past the axes because this represents the number of hats bought, and you can't go into negative hats. And the y-axis represents how many coats are bought, and you can't buy negative coats. Last question, or last part of this question, the intercepts. So x-intercept is 15, 0, and that represents the number of hats bought if no coats were bought. You could also say the maximum number of hats purchased for $375. And then the y-intercept would be 0, 5, and that represents exactly the same thing. But instead of hats, it'll be coats. Again, you can always say it's the maximum number of coats you could buy for $375. All right, last page of the final then. 16, 17, 18, and 19. It says circle the solution to negative 20 equals negative 4/5 x. When I have a rational coefficient, I need to multiply by its reciprocal. This evaluates to just 1, so I'd be left with x. Over here, I'm going to move this up. Negative 5 times negative 20 is negative 100. Or sorry, positive 100. And then 4 times 1 is 4. Simplify that, I get 25. Letter D. Number 17. Thomas collects miniature cars. He bought a display case at a cost of $5.95. He also bought 3 mini cars. And if that total cost was $11.05, how much did each car cost? So, first of all, 3 cars plus his case was equal a total of $11.05. So A and C match that equation, but B and D do not. So those two are gone. To solve this equation then, I need to subtract $5.95 from both sides. And I get 3C is equal to $5.90. What I then need to do Sorry, 490. What I then need to do is divide both sides by 3, and I get C is equal to $1.70, so that'd be letter C. Number 18. Variables need to be on the same side, so I want to remove this one. So I need to create a 0 pair. This creates 0, so I'm at 10 equals 8 minus 2n. I then want to subtract 8 from both sides, so I'm left with 2 is equal to negative 2n. Divide both sides by negative 2, you get n equals negative 1. And then last question, number 19. I need to evaluate. First of all, I need to get rid of the distributive property. So this negative 2 gets applied to everything on the inside of the parentheses. So negative 2 times 2p is negative 4p. Negative 2 times 4 is a negative 8, but I'm subtracting that negative 8, so this is really a plus 8. Same thing on this side. The 3 needs to get applied to everything, so 3 times p is 3p, and 3 times 12 is 36. I'm going to get rid of this variable term over here, so I'm going to create a 0 pair by adding 4p. That evaluates down to 0. I'm left with 8 equals 7p plus 36. And this is where the big mistake was made. Subtract 36, and you get negative 28 equals 7p. A lot of 44s. Divide both sides by 7, you get p equals negative 4. Alright, that is the end of this chapter final video. So if you have any questions, please let me know.